Illinois, the one and only Phil Conrad. I am super excited to talk to you on this amazing platform across the state boundaries in the awesome United States of America. I'm excited to introduce you to the people who don't know you and to reacquaint you with all of our old friends. So this is Phil Conrad, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Glad you're here, Phil. Hey, so I want to start off with an awesome story. We went to a Cubs game like 20 years ago, and they had this contest, okay? We were wandering around the outside of Wrigley Field. This was back in the old days before they had all the stuff. And there's this win a trip to Hawaii. It was a Chevrolet contest. You could win a free Blazer, I think, and you could win a trip to Hawaii.
Trailblaze your way to Maui. Yep, the Chevy Trailblazer.
So Phil decides to sign up, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, come on, you're crazy, Phil. I don't know how many thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people signed up, but Phil called me down the road a few months, and who should win the trip to Hawaii but none other than Phil Conrad?
This guy.
You did, didn't you?
I did, and we went. I won the trip, and we went to Maui.
And you took your wife.
Took my wife. Yep.
So one of the many things that binds us together is our wives. Phil and I went to the University of Illinois together, and our wives went to Purdue together. Janelle and Heather lived in the same apartment, and Phil and I lived in the same apartment. It's safe to say we both measured up. What do you have to say about that, Phil?
Absolutely. Both did well in that way, of course. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun those days to have that common bond with our friendships across the universities. So yeah, good times.
For sure. 2 Illinois guys, 2 Indiana girls.
Yep.
And we fooled them. We fooled them both.
Sure did. It worked.
So tell the world, you're going to come to Warrior Training on February 22nd. I'm really excited because Heather is going to come too. These guys are going to spend the night at our house, and we're going to hang out like the old days, probably stay up too late, and have some good old time fun. And you're going to come. Tell the world, who is Phil Conrad?
Well, I'm not that complicated. So married now for 26 years, got 3 kids, all grown. The youngest is still in college. He's got a couple years left of school. All 3 of my kids, coincidentally, have gone through Purdue or going through Purdue. After graduating from Illinois, Heather and I, my wife, moved to Chicago for a few years. I worked up there. Job changes brought me back to Indiana, and worked for a small company in Remington, Indiana for a couple of years, then moved down to Purdue for the next 19 years, and actually left Purdue last fall, joined a company called Redspin, and it's cybersecurity compliance and assessment. So I'm enjoying doing that now. Spent several years along the way doing youth ministry. I was a youth leader part-time for 8+ years. Currently, I'm serving as an advisor for the BYX, Beta Upsilon Chi fraternity down at Purdue University. It's where my youngest son is living. My oldest son also went through that fraternity. So it's a Christian fraternity, and it's a huge blessing on the campus. And so that's a lot of fun to hang out with college guys. I usually go about once a week, try to get dinner with them at the house and hang out, attend the chapter meetings, and enjoy getting to know those guys a lot. So that helps keep me young and helps keep me up with all the latest music and lingo that's going on and that stuff. So it's a good time. But so that's probably the the essence of Phil Conrad, I can say.
Uh-huh. Well,
So,
we have a lot of history and a lot of fun. And so like, I don't know, we're probably 18 years old when we first got together. So now we're talking almost 30 years. Ooh.
something like
Well,
that.
yeah, the University of Illinois. We all lived in this crazy place called Gabe's Place. There was 9 apartments. 6 of the 9 apartments, the ACs had taken over.
Yeah.
And Phil and I were apartment number 3.
Yeah. You
Eric,
betcha.
Eric Hodel, Doug Mangers,
Yeah. A lot of good memories.
Greg Minger,
Greg Minger. Yeah.
and Greg, the state's attorney for Woodford County,
Yeah.
and Josh Kuntz, a big time
Josh.
banker, went on to be a big banker,
Yeah.
and yeah, Doug, like I said, Doug and Eric. Who else? Kirk Wagenbach for a little
Kirk
bit.
Wagenbach. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A lot of good roommates, a lot of good memories. University of Illinois. Kids, we went to such a long time ago, we actually had to go to the computer lab. We were lucky because the computer lab was just across the street. You remember the computer lab's name?
No, I
Oh,
don't.
crap. What did they call it? What street was it on? Oregon? I think it was the Oregon Computer Lab.
Yeah. Could have
Anyway,
been. I don't remember the name of it.
well, it was hot. There was tons of computers, and
Yeah, it was warm.
what we would try to do is we would try to DM our wives or the people we liked at the time,
Yeah.
sitting in that. Nobody had instant messenger. Nobody had cell phones. We were
No,
just using.
that's where we went to do our email.
Yep. And went and hung out. And Phil and I spent way too much time jacking around early on in our semester of our first year down there.
Yeah.
We wasted some time early on and got behind in our classes. And I remember about 2 weeks in, especially a statistics class, I was like, oh crap, I better get serious and quit jacking around. So I quit going to bed at 4 a.m. and messing around with a bunch of other people and started taking my classes serious so that I could actually graduate.
Right.
A lot of fun, right?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So little known fact, everybody, Phil was way in his shell. He was a super quiet and shy guy when he came to the University of Illinois. And at some point, Phil Conrad came out of his shell. And what I heard, especially Sharice Bloom or Sharice Knobloch say, is that sometimes we wish Phil would go back in his shell.
Yeah. I came to a point where I was comfortable with who I was and more comfortable in my own skin, I think. And yeah, so I guess, to say that I came out of my shell would be fair. But to ask that I go back into my shell would be unfair. So I guess to those people I would say tough cookies. You get what you get. And here I am. So
yep. Well, I think it's a great privilege that you never went back, and you've done a ton of fun music. You've made some crazy songs, and you've done a lot of good things since you've come out of your shell. So great job, Phil.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Hey, one of the essence of warrior training is for men to connect with men, and there's this special bond that we have called the G6. Now, the G6 is often envied, never duplicated. The people that know what it is wish they could be a part. No. But if you would, Phil, tell us your perspective on what the G6 is.
Wow. The G6 is iron sharpening iron. The G6 is just a wonderful collection of godly men supporting and encouraging each other, often on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. And every month we share prayer requests. We share, highs through life. We share lows. We share struggles, we share joys, and we're there for each other. And it's just a wonderful thing to be a part of, and have had now for since pretty much since we graduated. So it's just been a huge blessing just going through life together. So yeah, it's it's super. It's hard to describe and you know succinctly talk about, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
So
special.
there's actually 6 of us guys, Phil and I, and then Eric Hodel, Doug Mengers, Scott Mengers, Aaron Klopfenstein, and I call the Mengers sisters, even though they're actually brothers. That's how I give them a hard time. But we all went to college at the University of Illinois, and our friendship kind of just grew and evolved. And when it really started to materialize, a little history is 2005, 2006. Illinois had their great basketball team, Darren Williams, Luther Head, on and
Yeah.
on, D. Brown. And we started doing this little fun thing where we would predict the outcome of Illinois basketball games. And so, for example, well, Phil became like kind of the statistician or kind of the hard work, the IT guy behind the scenes, and he has faithfully done that for many, many years, all these years now. And he tells us that he makes his own prediction, and so he might say Illinois by 3, and kind of puts that off to the side, and he has the integrity to do that. Then the rest of us, he tells us, and privately we respond to Phil. So I might say Illinois by 7. I have no idea what Phil predicted or anyone else. And then we also have a tiebreaker. We have to predict the free throw percentage. And there's 6 predictions. There's 6 guesses. And the person that's the closest wins a point. At the end of the season, we do this for all the points. We've accumulated all or compiled all. And the person who has the very most points actually gets a free meal when we regather in March. And we go somewhere really, really nice, like a really expensive steakhouse. So this prize is probably worth $100 to $150 at a minimum.
Well,
And so it's legit.
I will say in the early years it was worth less than what it is maybe now. As we've grown up, and our salary has increased over time. The restaurant options has increased over time. So
Yeah, that's for sure.
it's
The
been
rest,
a change.
yeah, the restaurants have definitely changed over time.
Yeah.
And so we're like in our, I don't know how manyth year. Do you know, Phil?
20th
Okay, this is our 20th year.
season.
And let me just be very, very clear. There's one person who absolutely sucks at this contest, and it's me. I have never won the annual event.
Yeah.
Aaron Klopfenstein has double the wins of me, I think.
Close.
And I don't know if it's because I don't care or if I'm just that dumb. But anyway, we have hundreds of games that we've done this for. And Phil has been super faithful. He's a tenacious, faithful, get it done guy. And every single time he just faithfully, like a trooper, not an Isuzu trooper, but just like a trooper, he keeps on doing this. And it's really fun. So we have this little thing in the G6. Now, another part of the G6, we actually go to the Big Ten tournament or some sort of a sporting event or some kind of a trip every single year. We make time, and we call it our G6 gathering because there's 6 guys. It's a great time. And our G6 gathering is going to be in Indianapolis this year, and it's going to be the Big Ten tournament again with 18 teams, not 10. Boo to the Big Ten.
Actually, it'll be 15 teams, as if I understand it right. Only 15 teams get to go to the tournament.
No way.
Yeah. So
The-
it'll be interesting to see it play out and all the buys and how that all works. So
I did not realize that.
yeah.
3 teams are on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So hopefully Illinois can be in the top 15 this year.
Oh, barely. We're hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. The G6 is super special. We're vulnerable with each other. We always have meals during the time we're together. And I say all this because we're gathering as men, and I want to keep encouraging men to build fellowship and build community. What the G6 does is, in times of trial, in times of rejoicing, in times of birthdays, in times of death, we're there for each other. We take a bullet for each other. And we all have tons of other friends, but there's this special kindred spirit that we've been hard to work on. And so I just love the G6. I love the friendships and the way that we do what we do. Phil, you're an important part to that. I think you're kind of the glue that holds it all together. And so that's a blessing. And I want to thank you for that with the G6. Everybody needs a G6 in their life. You can't call it that, which we've trademarked that name, but kind of. But you can call your own group of friends whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very special. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, the prediction contest every year is a lot of fun. It's one more thing to kind of, keep us connected and something that to have fun with and kind of, just connect on. So
Yep.
And to when it all kind of culminates at the G6 summit or the big weekend that we have, that's really a special time every year that we always look forward to. So
yes, every man needs people they can go to battle with, and I'm thankful for the G6 for my life. Praise God. Hey, Phil, so one of the things is sporting events has all held us together, and I want you to tell the world about Game 3 of the 2016 World Series.
Game 3 of the 2016 World Series was held at Wrigley Field. Praise the Lord. And we not only are Atlanta fans, all of us are Cubs fans, like pretty diehard Cubs fans. And so Bart told you the story about winning the trip to Maui. I also won, I guess you could say, the opportunity to purchase tickets for the World Series event, obviously. And I could pick whatever game I wanted to go to that was, home game. So I won that, lottery or whatever. So I remember being at work at the appointed time and day, some 10 o'clock, maybe on a Tuesday morning, that I could buy tickets. And I bet I had 3 or 4 laptops open on the MLB.com site to get ready to purchase those tickets. And I remember I was able to get 4 tickets to Game 3. And I chose Game 3 because it guaranteed that we would see a game. But also it was the the first World Series game since 1945. So I thought it'd be kind of, epic to see, the first pitch of a World Series game at Wrigley Field since 1945. And so that's the reason I picked that game particularly. And I remember that day being super special. It was a beautiful October day. We all gathered around, several of us gathered there around, I don't know, 3 or so in the afternoon, and had a meal with Kenny Rinkenberger and a few of us hanging out. The vibe was electric. It was just, you could tell everybody around the stadium and then that area and Wrigleyville was just so excited for this World Series to be taking place at Wrigley Field. It was phenomenal. And we walked around the stadium. We just kind of soaked it all in. It was just one of the most, probably by far the top sporting event I've ever had the pleasure of attending. And it was so fun. The Cubs lost, unfortunately, 1-0, but we got to see a great game, and we got to see a game in which the Cubs won a World Series. It's super, super special. So that was that was quite a moment.
Yeah, a lot of memories. And I took my brother, Scott. I paid a small fortune for 2 tickets, and Phil paid a very small amount of money, relatively, to be able to have 4 tickets. And we took Neil Banwert, Doug Mangers, and Aaron Klopp. Is that correct?
Yep.
and Kenny Stinkenberger. They called him Uncle Kenny on the television. The local TV station put us on there, and it was my Uncle Kenny. But this was the first World Series game since 1945, and it was electric is the absolute number one word I would use. It was so cool. And our friend Ben Zobrist, who we've spent the G6 has spent a little time with Ben Zobrist, and our friend Ben Zobrist was a very, very important part of that World Series and became the MVP. And we made a really fun memory doing that. So, yeah, I will never forget it, and it's a really good time. I go back to men, and we as men need community, and we need to build friendships, and we're not good in isolation. And so these kinds of things, I want to belabor them because they're great memories and I want to reflect on them, but because I want to show an example as an old man at 50 years old, what a lifetime of friendship, of just continuing to like build upon friendship after friendship or moment after moment, and having a lifetime of relationship and what it does.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Yeah, 100%. It's super important, super special to share life together, to have other men that you can come alongside, that can come alongside you, and build each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Phil, let's talk a little bit about your job and cybersecurity. You kind of stumbled into that, and it's a really fascinating work line or topic.
Yeah.
Give us kind of the lay of the land of cybersecurity.
Oh man. So yeah, it's hard. There are a lot of areas, I think, within cybersecurity. So the area that I have come into is doing cybersecurity assessment work, specifically assessment work for companies that do contracting with the Department of Defense. So there's a particular assessment called CMMC. It stands for Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. And if you're a company that does contracting work for the DoD, then you will likely need this certification because you will be handling sensitive information, and that sensitive information needs to be protected. It's called controlled unclassified information. You can look all this up in the Federal Register, and I can give you all the fun, nerdy links to find out about more about this if you would like. But suffice it to say, it's basically going to companies and making sure that their cybersecurity infrastructure is sufficient to support and handle this sensitive information. So that's essentially kind of what I do and where I'm at. But yeah, I kind of fell into cybersecurity about 6 years ago and started pursuing that avenue for my career. And so I'm excited to have ended up where I'm at. So yeah, it's going well.
That's really cool. And you work for a company called Red Spin, is that correct?
Yep, Red Spin. Yep, they're a division of Clearwater Security. So
fairly recent
yeah.
job transition. And what I found out, or what I said, is that is not to be mistaken with Red Skin. Right. The Washington Redskins are about ready to play in another football game. Maybe they'll change the name back. I don't know. That's a different conversation. But Phil works for Red Spin, not for Red Skin.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, do you ever travel with your job?
I do. So there's on these assessments, there's an on-site component where we need to do some assessment at the physical location of these organizations. And so there's a little bit of travel. So it's not, I think it's more fun. I enjoy traveling and kind of getting out, and I work from home for my job. So it's not maybe as, I don't know, cumbersome as it would be or could be if I, had to, drive to the office every day. But so it kind of breaks up the job and the tasks and kind of gives me something different to do and look forward to. So yeah.
Let's talk about this for a second. You go on the road and you're all alone. What do you have to do to set up boundaries and purity, etc.? Like, You're being a man of God. You're a one-woman man. You're
Yeah,
committed
right.
to Heath, as I call her.
Yeah,
And her name is Heather. We call her Heath.
yeah.
So you're committed to her. And so you're a one-woman man. When you travel, like, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I haven't had many opportunities to travel yet, just one so far. But I do have trips coming up, and um so the so far the trips has been with other people. I think eventually there's going to be some trips where I will be by myself. But I think the key, as I've thought about it, is to have an agenda and have, stay busy and have a plan for the time I'm there. There's quite a bit of work to do during these assessments, and so there's a lot of different, you know of course, as I mentioned, being on site at the meetings with the folks, so that'll be most of the day. And then finding a place to go out to dinner, and then coming back and you know taking some notes over the day of what I've assessed, and kind of keeping up with that, trying to stay ahead with my work. Um, but really just having a plan to uh, to use the time wisely that you have, and maybe set up a phone call with Heather and just kind of talk through the day, and ask how things have gone, and be able to tell her about my day. And so that's kind of the main thing, I think, is to have a plan and agenda to walk through for the day
Amen.
on the
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah. And I've done enough traveling myself, and I think I I'm very careful about what I put in my eyes. And I'm
Right.
just not, there's a lot of times I don't turn the television on the entire time that I'm in my room. Now there's still my um, phone and computer and all that, but
Right.
I want to be on offense instead of defense. Right.
Yeah.
And you basically alluded to the same thing. And so it's super critical.
Right.
Phil, I want to transition this just a little bit. You don't get where you're at, and you're not successful like yourself without other people helping you get there. Who has influenced your life the most significantly?
Well, I think about people that have influenced me. Obviously, I think about my wife, Heather. So she's, obviously been my cheerleader throughout life. And then I mean, obviously have to say the G6, support through the years. Um, so those probably some great influences. As I was going through the time as a youth leader, my pastor, Andy Overly, Ron Tillett, uh, Jim West, another pastor, Jim West, were very influential in helping me, through those years. And so yeah, just some great, just great godly men over the years of my life that have invested in me and been able to, share time with, and Bible studies, and going to, men's conferences, and spend some time, on the elder board. And so, like, some of those times, when you're just involved with other men in those ways, just you can't help but be influenced. So yeah, I think Pastor Brian Hannon would be another one. There's just been, yeah, a lot of people, throughout the years, that I would say have influenced me. Of course, my parents, obviously, um, and the investment they've had. So it's hard to know where to stop.
Yeah.
But which, I think it speaks to, the blessings that uh, God's had on me over the years. Like, blessing with people in my life at different points, where I was at, whatever I was going through. He obviously knows what I need. He knows what you need at any point in your life, and he knows, and he has the right people to send for whatever task, whatever role that they, will play in your life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a man who teaches that one of the biggest ways we have influence is spending time with, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you describe those people, I know you spend a lot of time with them.
Right.
And you just don't make that magically happen. You got to do time with, right?
Right. You got to be intentional. Right.
Mm-hmm. Now you and I are getting closer to the end of life as opposed to the beginning. And what I see you doing is you're investing into the next generation. You mentioned that early on in the conversation.
Right.
Tell us just a little bit more about what you're doing to invest into the next generation.
Yeah. So, being an advisor for this fraternity is for this fraternity, it's a wonderful opportunity. I spend about an hour and a half each week at the let me step back here. About an hour and a half we spend during the officer core meeting. So there are 8 guys that lead the fraternity for the Purdue chapter of BYX, and that's a good opportunity to just kind of help guide them if they have any questions about things, because I've been doing this now for I don't know, about 8 years, and it's maybe 8 years, and so I have a little bit of history to talk with them about what other guys have done in maybe a similar situation that's come up. So that's helpful for them. Like I said, just kind of getting in to sit in on the chapter meetings. So that's where they're all together, and that's usually about an hour and a half as well. So that's really enjoyable. In the last year or two, I've actually started meeting with a few guys on a, I don't know, about 2 or 3 times a semester. I'll meet with them and just offer up what I call warrior training. And so it's obviously taken from what Bart's been doing here, but I'll bring a little small piece of that to BYX and just share with them. We'll just share about whatever different topic. So I try to do that a couple times a semester, and then in the fall when the new Pledge Cat class comes through, we have what we call like a SIG talk. So we have a kind of one-on-one conversation, so they can get my signature for the requirements. They have to have these signature talks with all the guys, and so just spend time. Again, it's intentionally spending time with with each of the guys and the fraternity to get to know each other. And so there's a lot of intentionality with this fraternity, and obviously it's based on Christ. It's a Christian fraternity, and there's a lot of good leadership nationally and locally behind it, and so it's a blessing to be a part of. Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe you said this. What's the total number of guys per year?
Oh, there's about 70 in the house, and then usually about 20 to 25 new guys come through each year. Right.
That's fantastic. I appreciate your hard work in that. Great
So
job.
yeah, so if you're a senior in high school and you are exploring Purdue University as an option, then consider rushing BYX, and I can connect you with the right people if you're interested in that opportunity. So
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, you bet.
Hey, Phil, let's transition this. And I want to ask you, the Bible has been a huge impact in our lives. We both grew up in the AC Church, and the AC Church holds the Bible in high regard. Our parents held it in high regard. I say everybody good comes out of Sister Park, comes through it in some way. I've got lots of relatives that came through there. My grandma, my great grandma, and grandpa, I don't know. I think both sides of my family came through Sister Park in some way. And in Sister Park, people hold the Bible in high regard. So all that's kind of just man-made stuff. Here's the Bible that's timeless. I'm curious, what does the Bible mean to you?
Man, again, probably hard to describe and hard to really put into words. The Bible means, the foundation. It's, the book of life, the book of that just has all the instructions for life, right? So it's everything. If there's, you know, if there's if there's one book that you can't do without, it's the Bible. And there's just so much good stuff there. There's so much blessing from reading it and exploring it and learning from it and just in studying it. So it's it's everything. Like I said, it's really hard to kind of describe, but it's our life source and our one of our connections to God. The other being prayer, but yeah, it's just the way that we allow God to speak to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's your daily plan like for Bible? Do you have a certain kind of a rhythm or way you do what you do?
Yeah, I typically go through like a chapter a day. There's various studies that I've gone through. Just finishing up, had recently finished up a study on Revelation. I got a book from our pastor had mentioned this book about a year or so ago that I got, and I've been going through that as well. So kind of ebb and flow between going through a chapter or a book of the Bible maybe, and then just going through some different topics and kind of and even sometimes just opening it up and see what seeing what's there and what chapter I kind of fall into and kind of read from there. So yeah, even like just thinking through and studying for the talk coming up at word training, just finding some different passages and reading through for more context and more understanding. So but yeah, it's generally a chapter and each morning.
Mhm. Do you have any passages that have highly impacted your life?
I always go to Philippians 3:14, where I press on toward the goal of the high calling for which Christ has called me. To kind of paraphrase, there's other passages. That's kind of the one that immediately jumps out all the time. Like,
That doesn't that
um,
doesn't have anything to do with the fact that your name's Phil.
no, not at all. That's just a a blessing from the Lord, as it were.
Okay. I thought maybe that was the reason. That's awesome. Hey, um, I got to say this, different topic. Manhood is under attack in our world. What do you say?
I say charge. I think it's important for me, for young men, for old men to take the bull by the horns and take some action. And so that kind of gets into what I'm, hoping to speak on at warrior training is what God wants us to do. And I think the biggest thing is to get involved and not back down. And I think it's to, as older men, it's to raise up younger men, and it's as younger men, it's to become godly men. So I think that's kind of what I would say, for manhood being under attack.
Amen. I think this, if every man would be the man that they're supposed to be, so many of the problems of our society and our culture would go away.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But, it's, so that's the challenge. And so that, the key is to do our part and to try to influence others and come alongside others to help them, do their part as well.
What do you see, Phil, with all of the college guys? You're seeing a cross section of men or boys that are becoming men. You said about 25 new ones every single year.
Mhm.
What are you seeing like as a trend over the last 8 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. The guys that come through are quality. There's quality dudes. they're they have such a they have a really good, zest for life and desire to serve the Lord, um, generally speaking, right? I mean, we're all human and not everybody's going to be 100% of the time, but um, it's encouraging, to be involved that way because I get to see this every week and be encouraged by it. They're godly young men. They want to learn. They want to grow. They know they have weaknesses. They want to build that community. And it's been exciting to see some of them as they've graduated, carrying that on, kind of creating their own G6, so to speak, or starting to um, so it's exciting to see some of those things along the way, and just seeing them grow up and kind of I'm able to keep track of some of them over maybe LinkedIn or other social media or whatever. And some I still maybe able to text from time to time. So but overall, I mean, it's just encouraging because they do have a desire to serve the Lord and to grow and want to be the men that the God has called them to be.
Mhm. I think what becomes counterculture is for boys to grow up quickly and actually get married and have a profession, a job, get out of their parents' basement and start to have children. I tell people the very first commandment in the Bible, God said, be fruitful and multiply. And it's so interesting because almost every time that I say that to somebody, the first time they hear me say it, they like snicker and they laugh and they think it's like childish. And I'm not kidding. Like, this is real. This is, I have such concern for boys who stay boys. And at like 25 years old and 27 years old, they like aren't really growing up and looking for a wife. And I think there's many, many young women who are waiting to be led. Our society and our culture doesn't talk about that. They try to minimize it. They act like women are strong and they can carry the load and they don't need men. And I would say we need each other. I am so much better because of Janelle. You're so much better because of Heather. Way better.
Yeah.
No. But isn't this true? We need boys to grow up and get married and have children and get a job and buy a house and live in their community and attend a church and participate in their church.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct. Yeah. It's important. And so that's, again, kind of goes back to the, being, influencing those around you and encouraging and cheering them on and, helping to lead them to grow up to the men that's God has called them to be. And
Yes.
what has he called them to be? He's called them to be, those things that are in the Bible, right? To do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God, and act like men and grow into that. So yeah.
Amen. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, let's talk about one final topic. February 22nd, you're going to come to Illinois. You're going to cross the state line. You're going to come into the awesome state of Illinois, back home to Illinois, and you're going to speak at warrior training. Tell me what God's put on your heart. What are you kind of thinking about for warrior training?
Yeah. Well, I'm not much of a New Year's resolution guy, but a few years ago, I've started kind of thinking through what word do I want to hone in on for the year. And so I don't maybe do this every year, but this year I decided to look at the word brave as my word for the year. And so what I want to talk about is what it is to be brave. And so there's 5 different points I want to talk through for this talk. And those are battle, reformer, action, valor, and engage. And ironically, if you put those words, if you line those words up, the first letter spells out brave. So that's just a God thing, I think. So I'm planning to talk through that. And along with that, I'm hoping to, to share and use some some biblical, some historical, and even some personal stories to kind of share that and talk through those different points. So really excited, to be able to share with the men at Warrior Training on February 22nd.
February 22nd is going to be my 50th birthday. And I can't think of a better way to spend my 50th birthday than Phil Conrad and all the men and boys who come to Warrior Training. So guys, whoever has lasted this long on this video, there's probably nobody. No, I'm kidding. At least the day that we're dead and gone, people will come back and watch this. Be like, man, I wish I could hear my dad's voice one more time. And they'll come and they'll listen to Phil talk to Bart. But if you've lasted, I want to tell you, we want you at Warrior Training on February 22nd. The last one we had, it was a great crowd. We had an awesome message. The Holy Spirit was working. We prayed for some people and their needs, and it was really cool. We were vulnerable, and we had a lot of fun, and I am thankful. Sometimes I get discouraged and I want to quit, and then I think about Phil Conrad coming and being a part of Warrior Training, and I get all excited. And so, Phil, I can't wait until you and Heather come. I think we need to have the girls make an appearance. Girls are not normally welcome at Warrior Training, but for just a second, I think we'll make the girls come out so they can see our better halves.
That'd be cool. Yeah, it's gonna be a party. Bart Rinkenberger's 50th birthday at Warrior Training, live in the flesh. I'm excited to come to Illinois for that special day for sure.
Good. Well, Phil, I love you. I can't wait to see you again. And I want to thank you for your valuable time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Peace.